Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate you having me here. Thanks everybody for having me as well on this wonderful evening. I hope you're doing well from home. So this is a hack along session, meaning that you can hack along now and after the session, of course, as well. This lab is gonna stay online for God knows how long until I'm sick of paying the bill, I guess. But that's not for a little bit. Believe me, I have at least 10 euros left, so we can go for another year. Um, if you would like, feel free to hack that website and any of the labs that come on it later on as well, of course. Now, you might be wondering, why exactly did you call your talk Hunt Like a Rat? Well, of course, I'm a rat, the thexssrat, of course. Come on, guys, think a little bit harder. But yeah, besides that, of course, I really like rats themselves. Rats are super smart. Why are they considered to be smart? Because they're considered to be adaptable. These guys, they throw away their, for example, they throw away their weak of the herd. They go and let them hunt for the poison because they know they're the weak of the herd anyway. They were going to die potentially of other diseases or whatever they had. Now, I don't want you guys to send your fellow hunter off to a cliff. Let's not start with that kind of practice here. But what I would like is for you to adapt some of that adaptiveness. So, adaptiveness, sneaky, rats are sneaky. Whenever they see a new situation, they at least try to first of all analyze it. They try to not enter new situations without thoroughly putting up some recon first, you know? Like a rat will never come out and walk into a big space either. Have you ever seen a rat run into a big open space? I haven't either, and otherwise that must have been my retarded cousin. Uh, so yeah, it's super important that you're really diligent about being, first of all, that adaptability. That means that you can't just hunt the way other people hunt, because that would totally defeat the point of hunting. Believe me, there isn't like five programs for each of us out there. It would be a good way if we could each have five private programs to ourselves. But the pickings are slim. And if we would, I can teach you now how to hunt. The problem though is that this is how I have hunted for a long time, how I'm teaching other people to hunt as well. And by the time you're watching this, maybe a year, maybe 2 years from now, who knows? This might have been outdated information already because a ton of new hackers will have learned at least this stuff. And you might be wondering then, what's so special about your way of hacking? Well, it's all about just stop being technical. I started being a dork, you know. And don't get me wrong, I like the technical stuff as well, but I cannot tell you how much satisfaction it brings me to read a manual for 5 minutes, see that there's a security vulnerability or a security requirement that speaks against maybe some other security requirements that might cause a vulnerability, and then report it and then actually get my bounty for it. That makes me really happy. Makes me a happy rat. Now, first of all, what is bug bounties? If you don't know already, I guess you've been living under a rock, but here it goes anyways. Hacking, that's the way we like to hack. This is not bound by any laws, bound by any, well, of course you still have the laws of your governing country, etc. But what do I mean by that? Good luck hacking any other target that is out there, even if it's a target from your own country. It's going to be super difficult to get all of the permissions in order. You would have to set up a pen testing company first, or join one that has them as a customer. Then you would have to either go get them as a customer, or Jesus, can you imagine? In bug bounties, you just pick a target off the wall like it's your next date, and for some reason we're all okay with that. No, just kidding, of course. But I think it's really important that this is a distinction between other types of hacking that I would like to make. And I might be over exaggerating the point here a little bit, but I still think it should be driven home that pen testing is hacking to a degree, but it's a lot about coverage. You have your practice hackers, people who like to practice a lot, who don't really want to use this for their career skills. Believe me, there are people out there that don't want to make this magnificent career path their real careers. I know horrible, isn't it? But yeah, can you imagine being stuck in a dampy basement for like 100 hours at a time because you might have a hint of a bug and you smell like Doritos all of the time? And oh, it's freaking gross, but yeah, I'm guessing some of you guys might be able to imagine. I can smell you up to here, my friends. Really important to get the positives of bug bounties up first. So, no contract. There is no contract between the company and you, meaning you get to come in, stroll right along, tread your dirty feet on their carpets, and you don't even have to report it if you don't want to. How fun is that? Like I hate reporting, my friends, and I really do hate it because if you want to do bug bounties and you want to be able to make a consistent income out of it, it pays off much more to go for medium vulnerabilities at scale. I found that out with IDOR, broken access control, etc. as well. It was just much more consistent because I might be getting smaller chunks in at a time, but I would know I would at least be able to find those on a more consistent basis than criticals. So yeah, that's how I just usually, and of course that gets boring, that gets repetitive. Believe me, pen testing, it's fun, it's super fun, but as the owner of my own pen testing company, there's a reason I outsource this to other people and hire them to do it for me now. It's repetitive as can be, and especially after a few years, can you imagine, right now it seems fun to explore Nmap with all of its potentials, but in like, let's say that you had to use it daily for 5 years. That would be insanely boring, of course. So yeah, that's why I'm glad that I'm, at least for my end, I know what bug bounties is like. I know how it's going to pay me. Probably not a lot compared to the hours put in. Or I also know the perspective of a pen tester. Being on the other side, being paid per hour, but then if you find a critical, you get paid just as much as when you do find a medium low vulnerability or nothing at all. Yeah, because guess what? You did the work anyway because you're gonna have to get paid for it. So yeah, it's totally different worlds. And even within those, there's a broad range and variation of different people, of course. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, so that's my summary about bug bounties. I'm not going to go too much into detail about it here because I only have an hour, I've been told. And I don't like to get booed off stage for speaking 2 hours when I only have one, so I guess I'll rush. No, just kidding, of course, by the way. Points to note. Pick the targets you like, pick the platforms you like. You are the one hacking. You're the one determining your direction in bug bounties. Nobody's going to tell you to test for SQL injection. So if you don't like to test for SQL injection, don't test for SQL injection. You don't like to test for XXC, then don't test for it. Maybe you only like one type of vulnerability. Maybe you're an armchair hacker who really likes IDORs. Oh, changing a number gives me somebody else's data. That's fucking awesome. I'm going to look for the rest for my life. I'm going to look for only this for the rest of my life. Yeah, well, that's a good way of looking at it because then you can get specialized. I don't fear the man who practices one kick. I don't fear the man who practices 10,000 kicks once. I fear the man who practices one kick 10,000 times. So here we are going to be able to practice your way. You're going to hack the way you want. So don't ever feel obligated by anything or anyone to do something you don't want to do. What do I mean by that? Okay, let's say that you get a private invite right now, but it's time driven. Oof, it's time sensitive. You only have a day to respond. Okay, yeah. So what? Let that expire. Maybe you will answer positively and you will get like a program that is something that you really like. But there might also be the opposite of that coin as well, of course. Here in bug bounties, all we have to remember is that we get to do what we want to do. If we prefer to do things our way, we're going to do them our way. In our day jobs, our bosses can yell at us for not testing thoroughly enough or not giving enough coverage, but not in bug bounties, my friends. That's the beautiful part of it. If you are doing bug bounties, forget about methodologies. They don't work in our sense, in our areas. Our the thing that with methodologies is that it's great. It's super, super awesome to give you more coverage, to give you a certain checklist of things to do, but in a sense that you might think of a methodology, I'm thinking of a different type of methodology. I'm thinking of a way of following my intuition. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't know all of these freaking vulnerability types that are out there. And to be honest, if I'm doing bug bounties, I'm just doing something. That's the feeling I get, at least. So when I am just doing something, I at least want to feel useful, and I tell myself that I'm following my intuition. Spending 5 hours down that rabbit hole? No problem, bro. You were following your intuition. It didn't turn out that moment, but I'm sure that one of the next 100 rabbit holes will be yours. Believe me. So, really, in this case, follow your intuition. I make light of the situation a little bit. I joke of it a little bit. But of course, this is not really, like, this is not too far-fetched. As a hacker, after a little bit, you start to develop a little bit of a spidey sense for those vulnerabilities. You start to smell the cheese, if it were. So make sure that you follow a methodology up to like a level, a standard that is acceptable for methodologies in bug bounties. Because again, if you follow the same methodology as me, everybody's gonna find the exact same vulnerabilities, right? If in essence, if we follow the exact same methodology, should we not come to the exact same results? Well, yeah, it just doesn't work that way. Not in bug bounties, not in real life, I know, but it does to a degree. Just look at all these vulnerability scanners, and all of these people coming into bug bounties thinking they're vulnerability scanners will actually do something. So don't follow a methodology, make sure you follow your intuition. And when it comes to it, like if you find something interesting, go and have a look. Hey, what's this? This seems like SQL, but it doesn't respond to my SQL injection attempts. Well, it doesn't really seem like SQL now that I look at it better anyway. Oh, guess what? That was no SQL. What's the difference? What is that? Really, really take your time and get to walk your application slowly. Take your time to get your target take your time to get acquainted with your target. Take some time to take it on a nice date. Go see a movie. You know, why not? A lot of people will ask me, how long do you spend on a target? Well, average. That's an often asked question. I'm sure you guys have seen that before as well. How long before you actually find something? I don't know. Could be like a year. Could be like longer. I don't know. Do I get to calculate on all of the time that it took me to get up to this point? Or was it literally just only the moments spent hacking on that specific thing for that, you know? So yeah, really, really make sure that you get to know your target very, very well. It's no use in rushing through it. You're not under any sort of time constraint here. Let that be clear. You can do two things in bug bounties, and I haven't really prepared this part, so just a little bit improv. You can go two ways in bug bounties. Basically, you can either be fastest or you can be the most creative. If you can't be the fastest because you're a lazy rat like me, at least try to be a little bit creative. So make sure that you take those points into consideration and that you actually take everything around bug bounties into consideration as well. Have you wondered why do companies go into bug bounties? Of course, we know that they have had their pen testers rummage through it, nothing was found, and now they need the mighty, mighty bug bounty hunter to come in and save the day. Of course, we all know how that really happened, but of course you need to take some time to listen to this client side, you know? Really, really important. All my jokes aside, bug bounties should be something you need to have fun with. So don't be hacking alone. Of course, I'm going to say this 1,000 times. Lonely, lonely, I feel so fucking lonely. And it's not because nobody wants to hack with me, it's because I'm a freaking asshole. Hacking alone is lonely, well, duh, but it's even worse than that because The more you hack alone, the more you get accustomed to quickly messaging people. Not a big problem there, but you both have zero expectation to be online at a certain moment. Maybe you might have some group dynamic into play, but you will never have said, hey, I'll see you tomorrow at 5, right? Or I'll see you tomorrow at 6 after work. Maybe we should go and grab a beer and then just go and hack some shit. That's not how this works. Like, at least how I found it to work was more like, yeah, you get to know these people, you say that you want to collaborate, they say that they also want to collaborate, you're 6 hours apart, they are actually looking to learn from you, or you're one of those idiots trying to learn from somebody who's much further along in their journey than you are. Well, that's not how. You really need to make sure that whenever you're hacking, that it's not alone, that it's with a group of like-minded hackers. And of course, I'm not saying don't have your own personal pet peeve projects. Like, you can have some on the side. But that being said, it's important to share your moments of pain, your moments of sorrow, your moments of happiness with each other. Even just a group where you can say among 4 friends, hey, look, motherfuckers, I got that bug before you. That's a huge motivational boost, because you don't want to be the asshole on the other side who has that slow rat tell him that he beat you to it. So yeah, just make sure that you really rely on others. Give back to the group as you shall receive from the group. They are going to spend a lot of time on you, so make sure you just spend that much time on the group. I'm not saying if they do, like, let's take this into a literal sense for now. Let's say that we have 4 vulnerability scans that they do for every single 1 vulnerability scan that you do. Does that make your contributions any worse? Nope, not at all, not at all. Maybe they are just very shallow scanners and you're a deep scanner. Maybe there were some circumstances going on that day that prevented you from doing more scans. I don't know, your computer might be super slow, you might not have been able to run multiple scans at the same time. It's just that as long as we spend about equal parts effort, about equal parts time, that is something that we should all just be there for each other and try to help each other out, of course. Now, as anybody who's been doing bug bounties, they can all tell you this one thing. I haven't found a group of more, like, how should I put this, close-minded people. No, not close-minded. The word I'm looking for is hecht in het Nederlands. I don't know, freaking Jesus. You guys are asking me too many questions. But they're very close together. Yeah, that's the one. Thanks a lot, imaginary genie rat. They're very close together. So, jeez, now I forgot my original point. You guys should be ashamed. Make sure that you put in the right amount of effort. That's it, about as much effort as the others. If others are hacking like 6 hours a night and you're just there in the morning to pop up and say you'll be able to run a scan that evening, and then 3 days later they ask for your scan results and you don't have them, don't be that guy. That's just, it doesn't help that way. And there are going to be group moments where there's going to be somebody who's far superior than you in that specific topic. And there might even be things that you're really good at because you've seen them a lot at work, or because you're just somebody who likes to tinker with a Raspberry Pi in his backyard. Like, we all have our specialties. You should never be ashamed of being somebody who's able to produce less results than somebody else. You should be ashamed for somebody who really wants to get the same results while putting in less effort than the others for their efforts. So meaning the other ones get to have a roughly 25% cut in the amount of energy that they produce, and you get to sit there on your chariot whipping them along. That's not how things work, of course. So we're all in this for fun, but make sure that you have good arrangements with your groups set up though. So let's say that you agree with a hunting a party of 5, that you're going to hunt with them, and you hunt with them for like 3 or 4 days, and then in the end you might decide, I don't want to hunt with these people, I'm going to go join another group. Perfectly fine, but a day later they find a vulnerability. Is that because of the work you did while you still were in the group? Is that because of the Yeah, why did they find that vulnerability after you left? Did they leave it from you? Did they not tell you anything about it? You guys can see where this goes, right? It goes pretty hairy pretty quickly, and you might be thinking, hey, Wes, you're just hanging around with a bunch of asshole hackers. No, it's just that when 100,000 euros comes into play, mistakes are fast to be made, like, and nobody wants to have that. Just make sure that everybody is very, very, very clear on the arrangements beforehand. No, I think that's all I have to say about the whole bug bounty stuff itself, everything around it. Let's go and look at some programs, shall we? Now you decide to register, okay? Where are you going to register? That's the first one. And there it is. Sorry. Yeah, so where are you going to register? That is the very first one. Because you guys know this, Integrity, you have HackerOne, you have Bugcrowd, you have bugbounty.jp. Yeah, if you guys like Japanese, I would, if you guys like manga and anime, that's definitely something else. Because that will be great for you. A lot of these bug bounty programs are in Japanese. Jesus, who would have thought, right? So if you've been watching animes for the past 20 years, good on you. This is finally something that's useful for. If you're not a weep like the... No, just kidding. I watch anime. Jesus. Later, after this presentation, everybody's going to hate me. So I'll make sure that I insult at least each and every single one of you at least once tonight. How's that? That way you don't feel like I'm discriminating. So at the very, very start, you have all of these different platforms that you're going to be faced with. Don't be fooled by it. Ask, read, go through all of them. Don't stick with the first one that has $1 million marketing budget to throw at Google AdWords. Make sure that you do your research and find the program and even the, how shall I put this, the bug bounty platform that fits you, that's right for you. So once you have that, once you've registered to your platform of choice, is that the right platform for you to stick with forever? No, just go explore more while you hack. Jesus Christ, what the heck? Since when have people stopped exploring? Like, for real, this is part of the hacker mystique as well, is that feeling of exploration. So yeah, just go out there, find as much as you can and look at as much different things as you can. Life experiences almost, travel for any of you non-tech out there. So yeah, one thing that you do have to keep in mind when you have your platform picked is that they might have some programs on there that suck. They might have some programs on there that are freaking awesome, but I can tell you that none of these programs are what they first appear to be. For example, let's take IBM. IBM has a bug bounty program. Believe me, it's really hard to find one of the vulnerabilities in one of their processors, like Jesus. And even on their websites, their security is airtight. So it may seem like a sweet program to get invited into. There are in actuality quite a lot of hackers. It's an old program. It's been around for a little bit already. So yeah, these are all just things that you have to take into account. Now, at the very, very start, when you're going to pick your very first target, here's a few general tips that I wanted to tell you guys, and then I'll promise I'll stop boring you and get to the hack along part. Jeez, finally. So at the very start of your journey, you're going to be faced with 10,000 euro bug bounties. You're going to be faced with the prospect of hacking banks, hacking all of these big names. Maybe spend some more time looking into and looking at what they really are. And believe me, you won't know what a bug bounty program really consists of until you've read at least a couple. Like, Jesus, there's so many different types out there, and that's just going to still be a very small sample size and all of the different possibilities that can be in a bug bounty program. Literally, it can be infinite, because to a degree these programs are infinitely programmable and tunable as well. So yeah, you're going to be faced with any of these enticing offers at the start. Don't go for them. Don't go for the easy private invites either. They're usually not worth it. Now, what do I mean by that? There are some really easy way to get private invites. I think it's much better to spend your time on actually hacking, actually doing bug bounties and get invited and noticed that way. I know that it might not be for all, but believe me, for the people who cannot really find anything on the programs that are currently out there, I don't know, man. I don't know if you're just gonna have that much more luck on a private program. That's what I'm trying to say. A private program isn't what everybody makes it out to be. It's just another target, another bug bounty target to hack. After a little bit, I used to freak for like 8 hours a day on bug bounties beside my normal job and my kid and whatever. And like, it really always, I found it super, super surprising that for those 8 hours, the more I went for those bigger platforms that were really cool, the less of an accomplished person I felt, because I was banging my head against all of these big firewalls that were already in place, these big budgets for cybersecurity, and that's just sometimes not the right way to start out with. I'd prefer to have you start with a little bit less of a payout, preferably even vulnerability disclosure program, and just get 10 vulnerabilities or in 10 different programs. Then I would like to have you go for the big payouts and hit your hit your head against the wall and move away from bug bounties forever. I may be known to criticize bug bounties from now and then, every now and again, but I do that because I love you. I love you, so I just tell the truth. But that being said, I really would like you to know that there isn't really a bad choice here. What I'm going to say might be really applicable to 80% of you, might be really applicable to maybe 10% of you, which in that case I've done a pretty bad job. But in general, here's what I think I've picked up from my years of experience is that bigger payouts are generally also, of course, a lot more secure. Even the ones that just offer anything for a low vulnerability, these are really hard to find. And if they do, they're not going to be as popular as the bigger ones. You want to know why? Because they're probably more secure, either have less scope, or just a combination of both of them. So make sure that you have reasonable expectations. I was a dumb moron and I would just go into bug bounties thinking I could take on the world. Don't be me. Try to go with vulnerability disclosure programs. I can't really give you this advice of don't be me, because I am me and I think it's freaking awesome. But besides that, try to be a little bit more sensible here and there with your choices. I mean, for freak's sake, I've been a junk for 8 years and look at me now. I'm presenting on Mystiko. Ooh, my mom is so proud of me. She's in the audience right there. Hey, what's up, Mom? Sorry. So yeah, no more bullshit, I promise. Oh, wait, that was a lie. So for the newspapers, why do I have that put on here? You might be wondering, what's so bad about the newspaper, Uncle Red, that we should be avoiding it at the start? Low attack surface, as with any sales types web surface. Basically anything that is business to consumer needs to be either a specialized program, or you're going to have generalized business to consumer applications, which are a lot harder to find proper attack surface for. And then besides that, even though you might have that attack surface, there's still no reasonable expectation of there being a lot of functionality within that attack surface. So you might have, like, for example, I might find 10,000 endpoints. They may consist of one function only. So yeah, a little bit of a balance you have to make there. Anything salesy, anything that tries to sell you anything, don't bug bounty test them in the beginning, because you can be sure that if you want to test the entire website, you're going to need to buy stuff, return stuff, test out the orders, test out the returning of orders, testing out the partial credition of orders, because you guys know as well as I that if I send in, so like say for example that I have a new pair of shoes, something really, really goes bad, there might be certain websites that say, look, your shoe, it got here really badly damaged, that could in no way have happened to transport, will only reimburse you 40% of what you originally owned. that's a perfect opportunity for you to see if you actually get that 40% as well, of course. So yeah, make sure that you avoid those programs. Don't go with any stagnant program. Stagnant programs, you might be wondering, okay, how do you judge how stagnant the program has been, right? Because I cannot possibly judge how much a program has had valid vulnerabilities reported within the last 30 days. Their triage team might only be online once a blue moon or anything like that, and there might be a lot of reports compiling in, but they just don't triage them, or of course they will triage them if it's triaged by the system, of course, by the bug bounty platform, but they might just not have the time to process them properly. So yeah, stagnant programs aren't those types of programs. Stagnant programs are programs where you can see that the program has opened for a long time with low amount of reporting, and that has no real expectation of a one of the tickets that has been opened right now, if there were any, to be closed anywhere in the next 5 years. Like, you guys know what type of program I'm talking about, the one that's been on HackerOne for 10 plus years, that's been on Bugcrowd for half a century, and that is older than my grandmother when it comes to their time on integrity. Jeez, I am doing very well. So for broad scope programs, I would really avoid those, and I know that I'm kicking a lot of people in the shins here by telling you to avoid your broad scope program, but I have a reason. Believe me, broad scope, in my opinion, you have your vulnerability scans, which are freaking awesome, but if you don't know what you're looking for, I am opposed to any type of blind testing, meaning that you just blindly run your vulnerabilities and see what happens. I am very strictly against blind testing. And why? Because we test a lot of production applications as well. And especially in bug bounties, you can never really be sure. Because who says that your acceptance environment and your production environment are as well segregated as they claim to be? Yeah, it might be funny. Yeah, might be funny, but we've had some client situations in the past where that wasn't the case. And we would run test automation on their acceptance environment after having had the audacity of them to tell us, no, it's super, super separated. There is an air gap between the two. Yeah, well, guess what there was? Guess which environment we pumped full of bogus data? Yep, you guessed correctly. So what I would recommend is that you go for beginner business to consumer websites. So this includes things like HRM applications, invoicing applications, anything that is related to having a business sell to a... Why am I saying this? I'm so sorry, my friends. This is something you should avoid, of course, your business to consumer. What do I mean by that is your business to business websites. Those are often going to be one of your best friends. You might be somebody who hates business to business applications. Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but a lot more applications are being written for businesses by businesses than by businesses for the public. Because of course, if I have an application and I can sell that to 5 different customers and I can sell their entire freaking thing on it, you get what I'm saying. So really, really important to have that business to business mindset in there, because you're going to have a lot more functionality. You're going to have a lot more things to test for even. You're going to have a lot more time to focus on a parameter to really drill down on that thing. Jesus Christ, I'm getting a little bit emotional from this talk. Let's not waste any more time, shall we? I think it's time to dance. Now, what I would like you guys to do, of course, if you can, keep up with me. If you can't keep up with me, no problem. I know I'm the fastest hacker alive anyway, and that is true. You can ask my mom. She's in the audience right there. Hey, Mom. Oh, wait. It's no longer funny if you make it a second time. Shit. So, yeah, there goes my whole routine. Let's do something wild, shall we? So I have this website called Red Site, and you guys can all go there, https://hexpert.com/redsite. In here, you can register for an account, or you can just start to hack immediately as soon as possible. So what do I do first when I get to a new target? Like, there's this smell of undiscovered fields of grass in the distance. What do I do? Where should I put my cheese first? Well, I start to get to know my application, register for the application. Oh, okay, what is this? What is that? I'm going through all the application, because guess what? Right now, there's 1,000,001 functional things you should be testing for, but 1,000,001 non-functional things that you aren't even thinking about. So that means, of course, as well, in this case, there's rules in here. For example, there might be a rule that checks if username equals admin, then do something silly. You can bypass that rule by doing certain things like admin and then a 0 byte and then some other things behind that, and then you have your real username, quote unquote, but the system only checks up until the null byte. So yeah, there's ways around that. You need to know about those restrictions in place first. So that's going to be your first assignment. You're going to map out your restrictions. Might be a little bit silly. You might be thinking, okay, Uncle Red, how am I going to map out my restrictions on an application of this size? Well, first you walk your application. You get to know all the functionalities that are in there. And then I'm going to, for every single parameter out there, I'm going to try to see, okay, this is the visible parameters by browsing, for example, or by having parameters that I can. This is a cool trick that I always do, by the way, for that, is that when you go in your Burp Suite, and I'll show you guys this as well, under your response modifications, you can actually draw a big red square around any hidden field. So bam, that's easy to notice that's a hidden field. Why is this hidden? Is the developer drawing my attention away from this field? Is he purposefully hiding something that he's still developing? Who knows, right? So in this, I have all of my functionalities mapped out for myself in the backend. I'm not gonna surprise too much yet, because there's nothing more sexy than an invoicing application, right? So yeah, we shouldn't give away all the secrets immediately. Let's try to map out what those limitations are that I was talking about. So first things first, when I explore one of these applications, what I try to do is have at least a man-in-the-middle proxy open. That will really help me later on. So let's start that as well, because I would like to get Burp Suite in this case. You don't need Burp Suite Professional for your bug bounties. What it really helps with is saving your project. Yeah, and maybe a little bit faster Intruder, but I don't need Burp Suite Pro for Intruder. I'm not gonna pay $400 for a full speed Intruder. Are you insane? Jesus. Yeah, saving is much more useful. That's what I use that for. Jesus. Look how quick that is. If I want to just start up my new application, I'm just gonna set up my scope. There we go, back to scope, use advanced scope control. That's the first thing you should always do, by the way. Never start hacking without setting your scope properly and without having read all of the required scope things. I'm not going to go through it. Just go to your bug bounty program that you want to hack. Go to their bug bounty platform, specifically that they're on, and read the rules of engagement. Read every single thing about that scoping page. Because guess what? Those are your contracts. So yeah, first things first, in my case, I'm going to get there we go. Let's get that bar out of the way, shall we? And I promise I'm not just seeing things. There is actually a Zoom presenter bar in the way. So I'm just gonna put hexpert.com as my host right now. That's what I want to filter at. I'm not gonna be too specific. I could be very specific and say, since this is only about RedSite, I could do some really funky stuff there and like really only literally focus on that RedSite stuff, but let's not go too fancy right now, shall we? I mean, we still have to make sure that we hack a little bit as well, not just dazzle you guys with my amazement. So first of all, we need to intercept. I'm going to use my browser for that is built into Burp Suite. You don't have to. You can use whatever the hell you want. So if you prefer using your Firefox, if you prefer using your mom's potato, I don't care, as long as you can connect it to the network, it's good, because you need that man-in-the-middle proxy. So yeah, and of course your potato is going to need to accept the Burp Suite certificate as well, because what Burp Suite is going to do, or any man-in-the-middle proxy for that matter, is it's going to try to weasel in its own certificate, have the application sign the traffic with that, and then it is able to decode that, blah, blah, blah. Like nothing too exciting for bug bounties. Just everything you need to know is that, of course, you're going to test HTTPS. So we do need to be able to read that traffic. We do need to be able to put our certificate in there. Does that mean that if you can do that with your mom's smart fridge, that you can hack it? Well, I don't know. I'm not the manufacturer of your mom's fridge, but if I were, you sure as hell could. I'm Please don't go hack your mom's fridge, all of you. I'm gonna have so many angry letters. I'm not buying any of your mother's new fridges, let that be clear. So very quickly off the bat, off the outset, going to go open my website. And there's a few things that I am going to test for by default, if I can. Oh, Jesus, that's not a file, my friend, of course. There we go. So first, a few things that I am always going to watch out by default is I'm going to register with a very specific attack vector. Single quote, double quote, greater than sign, and then the image source equals X. And let's put something special in there right now. So let's just put test in there, and then a dollar sign, and then a squirrely bracket, and then 7 times 7. I do that wherever I can. Now, will the application always allow you to do this? No, of course not. As you can see now as well, when I try to log in, my user didn't register properly. Why is that? Some of you guys, some of the astute among you might have already seen. Oh, I see single quote, double quote. I guess the rat side is very happy for me today that it's still allowing me to log in. No, just kidding. The thing is, I have a admin backend where I can enable and disable certain functionalities and exploits. And I think I must have forgotten to disable this one. And I promise I'll show you afterwards to guarantee you I'm not lying. It would be a shame if the power would cut out during that. But no. Those of you guys who have worked with me on rat side know that this is a vulnerable thing. But there are also some vulnerabilities in there which can just be triggered by a backend server. So yeah, I've registered my account right now. Perfect, because now I can already automatically test for 3 different types of attacks, even maybe a little bit more if you want to count the different contexts as well of this website. I'm testing for my SQL injection with the single quote, double quote backtick. I forgot to put a backtick in there. But you also have your greater than sign, of course. So that makes it for both that you can test with your SQL injection attack strings, also your JavaScript injection, but also if you add the greater than bracket straight afterwards, you're immediately testing for HTML tag attribute injections along with that. Let's put the cherry on the cake, shall we? Put some template injections in there. And we have a very lazy attack vector that you might think, oof, I don't know if I want to be that lazy. I at least want to look for all of these vulnerabilities myself. Feel free to be my guest. Feel free to just specifically zoom into certain things if you would like to. But believe me, you can't go through them all. There's going to be certain things that you've missed because there's just so many things you can check per endpoint and per parameter as well. It just really always helps for me to enter that at the start of my application where I can say my name is blah, 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 blah. That's great. So that way my attack vector is carried along with me through the application. You know, that ancestral blood, get that going, or like Liver King would say, the steroids. So it's super important to have that lazy attack vector and then to go zoom in. So once you've tested every single parameter with at least this, you know that you'll have tested every single parameter with at least this. And how do you know you'll have tested every single parameter with at least this? Make a list. It's not that difficult. I was exploring a little bit in the backend right now, so I can see, yep, there we go. I can make an export out of this specific site tree as well. And then I already know a few of these parameters. Now, a few of these URLs are going to be in there a few times because one request is going to be with one parameter, one other request might be with two new parameters, etc. So yeah, just you'll have to sort through all of this a little bit yourself. I know, harsh, right? We still have to do a little bit of the work ourselves. But that being said, we still get to be lazy for a majority of the application. And if the cheese processor would use my username in this case, which it's not, but if it were, let's just say it were, then in that case, of course, I'm already testing that my username, I don't have to make a new account to test for that username field specifically. Do I have to do that from the outgo? No, of course not, but like I said, you will. I'm not one to take chances, so if I can have it in there from the get-go and just never worry about that anymore, then perfect. Does that mean that I'm giving perfect coverage across those parameters that I might be able to see a little bit more difficult or that are very hard to reach? No, I'm not giving perfect coverage among those, but I am guaranteeing the base level of coverage on every single parameter that uses that value. So the more values you can see that specific attack vector into, the better. Your front end might sometimes be stopping certain things. Your back end might sometimes be stopping certain things. It's important to make that distinction. A front end is there to protect the users from their own stupidity. Your APIs are where the real protection should be. Meaning that even if I have a home field, a home right here, let's just say, let's do something strange on contacts. We guys know that we can only enter a, oh, right, before I forget, contacts is not going to work today, I think. But that being said, let's just try our user settings then. Oh, look, a broken image. Remember, image source equals X, so your HTML injection also directly. This prompts me to make a new account and test more for cross-site scripting, but I at least know where to look. I at least have an idea, a resemblance of where to look for, and I'm not just going to start digging into the dirt blind. Now, this is just one of the attack types that I can do on here. The reason I was hammering so heavily on business-to-business applications is because, in our case, we can test usually for IDOR with them. Not every single application or not every single website is going to give you admin accounts. Not every single program out there is going to even give you an account. You might have to register one yourself. Perfectly fine. But then you at least have certain things that you can test for, like IDORs, which are really easy to test for. And broken access control, well, you'll first have to do some exploration there, because you don't know what the endpoints might be for the admin. That's why I always try to go for programs that at least give me an admin account as well. It just really helps speed things along. And I don't have to, the beauty is you can spend hours on end hacking. And believe me, there's always something you can do and something you can try, and there's never an end to it. It's just much better to take a step back, take a bit of a breather, and just relax a little bit. I see some of you guys just go in there with that ferociousness of a rat, but not that adaptiveness, because you go in there, you really want to smell blood, but you don't even know what the difference between a cross-site scripting and a CSRF token is. Well, of course, those are some very, very important base understandings that you need to have. Once you get those base understandings, you'll see that in a lot of these business-to-business applications, they will throw up a lot more parameters than you think, and even a lot more functionalities than you might think, because this is something that I haven't told anybody here yet. So if you can, go have a look for it. I'm going to challenge everybody in the audience today, but how to make yourself an administrator. I'm going to be very, very annoying, and I'm not going to show you. And instead, I'm just going to have you come to my Twitter and beg for it. But if you don't want to do that, there's also the admin account. I'm not going to be one of those assholes who don't give you their account. So this is my admin account. I hope you guys will treat it as well, as I'm sure that I have faith in you. You guys are angels, I know that. But don't worry, by the way, if you really do mess something up, this site resets every 30 minutes. So don't worry about trying to break it. Please try to break it. Do your best. Do your freaking worst. Uh, Watch me get 50 DDoSers on my neck now. But here you can see that we do have more functionality, which was initially not visible. Always, always, always assume this is the situation when you start to enter a new program. Because as you go along, you might see, oh, there are some things in here that I can't really correlate with any of the existing functionality. Well, that might hint at a certain admin functionality being available to me. It might hint at a certain, like if I just go through this website right now and I go to my user settings and I submit and I go and have a little bit of a look at what's really happening, I'm already starting to see where that might occur. Now, it will still take you, some of you, quite a long time. Don't be discouraged. Like, just go back to the basics. Don't think it's too hard. In this case, go back to the basics. And then you should easily be able to make yourself another admin account. But you will have to test the entire application. That's sort of what I've been trying to establish with RedSide. And I cannot thank anybody but the whole Red Pack enough for this, because while I may have made some of the code for HackerRats, for RedSide in this case, yeah, HackerRats is also one of my sites, but while I may have made the code for some of these sites, the ideas came from the vulnerabilities came from you guys. And it's not just on things that might seem obscure. This is things that happened in real life scenarios. These came from real life reports. And not even that far-fetched. Like, the thing is just, if you have an application in front of you that's this big, and I'm not trying to, like, okay, it's not even that big what we have here. Let's be real. Contacts, so you have contacts apparently, you have your invoices and your orders. Yeah, what else? Page opener, yeah, that's literally just open redirect testing. Good job, Wesley. Cheese processor, of course, I think that's very obvious what you have to do here as well, if you know a little bit about the vulnerability types, but don't bash anybody who doesn't, because it's these things that might be obvious for you might not always be obvious to other people, no matter how advanced their technical skill set. That's why I still try to take the time to, like, at least explain myself to appear, even though I often have that feeling, I think you guys know that as well, where you're explaining yourself to appear and you feel like, hey, this guy already knows exactly what I'm talking about. Why am I even saying these words? Or, yeah. I lost my train of thought. That only happens like once every 15 minutes. But I'm finishing up here anyway. One last thing that I would like to show you guys is, yep, stay curious, because even though it says here that, and of course, yep, of course I've been practicing that on my normal Google Chrome, so don't think I don't know what to do in here, because I built these slabs. Damn it, I know what to do, please. Let's see, so there is a vulnerability in here, your template injections. And you might have already seen, okay, template injections. I might be able to pop up an alert with that, depending on the templating engine being used, of course. And if you're able to break a sandbox, that might or might not be a useful thing. But here we have the same thing. So we have our, not JWT, page opener, nope. There we go, contact customer support. This page is of course not vulnerable to cross-site scripting in a traditional sense of the word, but this page is more than capable of delivering off some heavy payloads if you want to find them as well. So if we go back to the previous example, there we go. Oh, please don't tell me I put that off before the start either. Well, just so you guys know, I'm not bullshitting. There is really an admin page here. I'm not going to, feel free to try your best at trying to brute force the password. There's never in a million years that I'm going to give up that the password is I am the best person ever. Not you, Uncle Rat, that is. And yes, that is included in the password. But my friends, that's it for what I wanted to show you today. I don't know, you guys are probably stuck with like a million new questions right now because I've been going through stuff. I'm a very, I have autism, I have ADHD, so for me, being able to stick to one particular topic for like 5 minutes is an achievement. Um, Thanks for having me, everybody. I wonder if there's more questions. I would love to hear them, of course.
Yeah, thank you for your amazing presentation and for
Definitely.
the chance that you have made, especially for us today. So again, thank you for that. And yeah, if there are any questions from the people who are watching, then please feel free to place them in the chat, Discord, YouTube, or Twitch, wherever you are watching at this moment. Let's
And
give them 1 minute
yeah, of
type
course, feel free
question.
to take your time. I'm just going to drop the link to Red site in the chat with you. I don't know if you'd like to share
Yes,
that
I
with
am.
anybody, but just another tip for you guys at home as well, or you gals, or your rats, I should say, whichever your preferred pronoun is. We all know it's rats anyway, but um, just so you know, a simple vulnerability can often be a lot more practical to pull off than a very, very advanced vulnerability. But the problem is finding a simple vulnerability on a million parameters is a lot more difficult than finding that really advanced one on 100 parameters. So, yeah, as you what you need to realize with this is that as you scale with difficulty, as you learn more about idors aren't just going to throw themselves at your feet. So that's might sound silly, but yeah, you're getting better. You should be able to find these a lot more, and you will be able to find them a lot more consistently. But a good hacker is somebody who has a little bit of all of those qualities, from the technical aspect, from the non-technical aspect, who's able to communicate with the business people as well, especially when it comes to client work. Because I know I'm talking a lot about bug bounties, but my core essence here is still a pen tester. I just got started doing bug bounties. I just like to I like to know everybody. I like to never mind. I just like everybody to know that I was a junkie a few years ago. I really meant it when I said that, and I'm trying to climb myself up from a very deep hole. And if it helps you in any way, like you shouldn't be afraid to try things and to just throw yourself out there. One of the biggest mistakes I see all of these hackers making is that they want to spend a million times practicing where they want to do like a little bit of hacking because they don't know if they're performing the art really, really well or if they're doing it according to all of the rules. Fuck the rules, this is bug bounties. There's no rules here, like that's the beauty of it.
Well, thank you for your